IVM.
Hello and welcome to Shootball, another episode. What episode is this? 5, 6, 7, 8? No one knows. Just like the Premier League table, we'll talk about that in a minute. This episode is called Nayak. And I'll tell you guys in a minute. We're doing this episode a little differently. So everyone who has heard us before, tell us what you think. If you think we should do other things, you can tell us that. If you think we should get a replacement for Sapre, I mean, we're low on the lookout. Hit us up on Twitter. Use hashtag Shootball. Whenever you tweet with your ideas, we'd love to get some feedback on this. Because right now we're only getting great things, and I know for a fact that can't be completely true. I mean, I'm hoping it is, but it's absolutely not. So any feedback is welcome. Today, we'll start with a quick roundup of what happened over the weekend. We won't spend too much time on that. The reason why this episode is called Nayak is because we'll focus more on the Nayaks of the real world. And by real world, I mean football just for now. We'll talk about a little bit of what's also happening back home with the IPL. But I'll tell you how all this comes together in a cauldron of, no, what is that word? What is that called? Where lots of things happen together.
Cauldron only. Harry Potter make cauldron only. Everything used to in the potions master's room. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, let's.
I didn't know. I didn't know we were supposed to speak. I thought this was a monologue.
This will be a monologue for a while. But the two voices you heard were the guests on the show. I'm the host, as everyone knows. Karthik Iyer gets to be guest number 1. Hello, Karthik. How's everything in Bangalore? Good, great. Okay, Sapre.
So one second. When you say Nayak, that's the same. Become a chief minister for 24 hours. Anil Kapoor film.
CM for a day. Yes, that
CM
is the
for
right
a
move.
day. That's the right.
Keeps the doctor away.
Correct. And the other doctor on this episode is Dr. Gaurav Sapre. He's done a PhD in sociology. Is that right, Sapre?
I don't know. They gave me some certificate. I can't trust that university, actually.
Correct.
But yeah, why not? Yes, I did.
Entire political science. You're the only second person in India who has a certificate in entire political science. The number one being number one. The PM for 2 terms. So we won't go there. But coming back to Nayak, the idea was to talk about some of these sports people, sports stars and celebrities interchangeably who've actually taken a stand for things in football and stands that affect a lot of us in real life. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Not actually a minute. After the break is when we'll talk about it. So hold on.
And how it's affected them as well.
Yes, I mean, yes, that is fantastic. Yeah, I think we've given away one of the names. The erasure of a certain player. We'll get to that. But before that, let's talk about something really boring. The games over the weekend. Sapre, top of your mind, the best game that happened this weekend?
Very difficult to see. I like the one with Leeds and Villa because of what Patrick Bamford did. But I have an answer for the dullest game of the weekend, which was the drab United-Chelsea game.
Good to get it out. Get it all out. Faster. We're recording.
Shittiest game of football over the weekend. So unexpected. Both teams just decided to go for a clean sheet. Annoying as
So that's all we will talk about the United and Chelsea game. Karthik, what did you think? So now I asked you the same question, which was the most fun game, but Sapre made his own second question because he likes to chatter. Most fun game and the dullest game of the week.
I mean, you're not talking just Premier League, right? Or are you?
I mean, please feel free to talk about the fictional leagues.
I mean, the El Clasico happened, and I'm not talking about Mumbai Indians versus Chennai Super Kings. I'm talking about the actual El Clasico, Real Madrid beating Barcelona 3-1. Yeah, that was damn entertaining. It lived up to billing.
Absolutely. And the other fun thing that we will talk about right at the end of the episode is what will happen tomorrow, which I'm guessing will be after you hear this, before you hear this podcast, is Messi will take on Ronaldo in a Champions League game. So Barcelona will get beaten twice in the same week. How will that go down? I don't know. But Karthik, you didn't answer which was the dullest game of the weekend.
The dullest game of the weekend, I mean, you have to agree that it was Manchester United versus Chelsea. But I know we keep criticizing Chelsea and Frank Lampard on this podcast. So I'm going to say, well done, Chelsea. Okay, me. But well done, Chelsea. Well done, Frank, simply because it's 2 clean sheets in a row. And it's something that they have been wanting for a long time versus Sevilla and now versus United as well. So things are looking, it's not as bad for Chelsea as it was for United. Actually, it's not bad for United as well. It's just two mid-table clubs having a 1-0 draw.
Yeah, I think the key there was dropping Kepa.
Yeah, Karthik is an obvious silver lining guy, right? He's trying to find a silver lining for both these shabby teams of Lampard getting a clean sheet and United getting their first point at home this season. Shana, be real. This is an authentic podcast. That's what makes it us different from the other non-existent podcasts.
Okay, let's be real. What justice for Donny van der Beek then? What is he doing sitting on the bench? Play him.
We will. He'll play the Champions League final. Don't you worry.
Sapre, don't worry about your home form. You're playing Arsenal at home next weekend, so I'm sure there are 3 points that are banked for United already. So that's a good sign. I think for me personally, the most fun game was watching Leeds pummel Villa. And the only reason for that was because it was a Friday night game. I really like the idea of a Friday night game. Like, bring in the Premier League earlier. I really like that. I don't care how the games go. I'll still watch them irrespective, except Spurs playing Burnley at 1:30. Spurs don't deserve that kind of attention. I have other better anything else to do. I will not stay up for that game. I didn't stay up for that game. But anyway, just to look at the table, Everton still are number one at 13 points. Liverpool are creeping right behind again at 13 points, but they, of course, goal difference, courtesy Villa, is at just 1 goal. So do you think, and of course, Villa is number 3. I mean, what world is this? I don't even recognize it anymore. Karthik, what do you think is happening in the league?
It's the obvious thing to say that because changes are happening in the world, changes are happening in football as well. So I'm going to stick to that line of thought and say that because we're in an unusual world, this is going to be an unusual season with some unusual leaders, notwithstanding the fact that this has happened before. There have been teams in the top 4 for the first 3-4 months of the table, and then it ends up evening itself out. I mean, do any of you guys expect City to stay wherever they are in the bottom half of the table?
They are 13th at the moment. Sapre?
Wow. Yeah, no, I think Karthik's right. I think both these teams have individual player issues right now, especially with City. I felt sad for Aguero limping off again, and from what I hear, he's got a hamstring injury, I guess. So very unfair. They will turn back. I think this was the stat. The last time we saw some top 4 like this was in some 70s or the 80s. So this was before I was born. So imagine how old this was.
Oh my goodness. This is before time was invented.
Yeah. So this will change. But there's also another interesting stat I read that any team in the Premier League who stayed in the top 4 for the first 6 weeks ends up being in the top 4 by the end of the season. So if Villa is there for the first 6 weeks, it's going to be a little cruel on all the other teams.
I don't know if you've heard of Arsenal. We're usually good by Christmas and then we're not in the top 6. I have this amazing joke which I'm going to steal. I don't know who this belongs to, but Sapre is so old that his Aadhaar card number is 1.
Nice.
Nice. With that joke, I want to move on to the other things that happened in the Premier League. Everton got smacked. I wasn't expecting that against Southampton, but Southampton did really well. Fulham got smacked, extremely expected. Kane provided for Son again expected. Brighton and West Brom, no one watched, that's okay. Arsenal lost to Leicester by a Vardy goal. I mean, history repeats itself. Arsenal just don't know what to do with themselves. Liverpool beat Sheffield, and that covers everything. I think that other than the fact that City didn't really pummel West Ham, and West Ham looked okay in parts. I think that covers everything.
But for the part, Arsenal could have drawn that game. That goal just was disallowed. Shouldn't have been.
Yeah, VAR is a little tricky because, my opinion has changed. VAR is not at fault. The referees continue to be at fault because technically, when you say VAR is the problem, you're blaming the technology. I don't think it's still scientific enough. I think VAR needs a PR team by itself. And tell me what you guys think, because I don't exactly understand a lot of the situations that VAR takes a call in. I would love to say that I know every aspect of football. I possibly don't, especially the offside rule. There are other instances in the penalty box where it hits the hand, and there are many different permutations and combinations. What's stopping the FA from putting out 10 videos which says this is what VAR will be governing, and these are the rules, and this is the black and the white? There will be some grey, that's understandable. But what's stopping them from making the rules more obvious to the watching public?
Yeah, but they are. I mean, that's not the FA's job. That's probably the Premier League's job and the broadcaster's job to make it obvious to the public. But on the IFAB website, all the rules are there. What VAR governs, what it can't govern. I mean, it includes goals, red cards, offsides, etc., etc., etc. But it's there. It's there in print. Now, how you implement it, we saw last year where Premier League referees were told not to go to the screen because your friends on the continent of Europe are doing it. So you don't go because you all are better than that. Or the VAR official is better than that. Turns out not to be true. But this season we're seeing the VAR official himself is making mistakes despite seeing video evidence. Which is this, it's like, in cricket, a third umpire, I have never seen a third umpire make a mistake, say, on a run out. Yeah. If he's either in the crease or he's not. There are a few calls where you can say, maybe there was a smidgen of a bat. The wood of the bat that was there on the crease, etc. But there's never been a mistake like this. And this third umpire has been going on for how many years? 30 years now. I don't get... Maybe I'll tell you what, Shivram. Cut off the lines. I think there is too much information being provided. This Premier League puts these 50 lines there, which makes people like you ask 50 other questions. If you remove the lines, if you just have a referee touching his earpiece like the James Bond does usually, and they're talking, or the Avengers, they're talking to each other. We don't ask how. Where's the connection coming from? So, I mean, just let the VAR official tell the main referee, this is a decision, done, bam, over.
Very nice. I love that. We have a PhD in sociology. We have a PhD in socialism. Sapre, what are your thoughts?
Ignorance is bliss is what I take from what Karthik said.
Correct.
I have a very simple solution which will solve for this and will also win awards for doing this, as in the Premier League, of course, and we'll get 3% because that's a lot of money, apparently. They should get Shimit Amin to direct all the Premier League games, because if you've seen Chak De, it's meant for people who've never even seen people playing hockey. So the commentator will keep explaining everything. Right? So we'll need Shimit Amin to go and direct Premier League games.
Very nice. So both of you are basically agreeing that the people watching are the problem.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you'll stop asking questions and they stop providing that much information. Just stop it. Stop the lines. Yeah.
Yeah, too much democracy. There's too much democracy.
Yeah, too much democracy. Yeah, that brings me to my first break. Thank you on that very regal note of too much democracy. Basically, what we've agreed, and not I think unanimously, is that people know too much. We should just stop the complete broadcast. We'll just send them a press release in the morning, read what happened. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. We'll just tell you who won. Yeah, correct. Very nice. I love this approach. No information, less information, no questions, no problem.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what. So say this especially in the UK, we know because we have proof. There is this game that happened, like you mentioned in your intro, Shivram, Brighton versus West Bromwich Albion. Yeah, in the UK, because we are privileged sitting here that we get to watch all Premier League games. You guys know that in the UK, there are only a certain number of games available on television. Yeah. The rest, currently, they have to pay £15 as a pay-per-view. Insane. Now, nobody in their right mind for a Brighton and West Bromwich Albion is paying £15. There is no crowd in the stadium. How do you know that the game even happened? It may not have happened. Maybe they just told us that the result was 1-1.
Correct. That was before the advent of the internet, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, the people like us who have too much information are telling the people in the UK over there in Brighton and in Albion that the match happened. They didn't know it until we came into the picture.
That is true. So it's not just people's fault. It is our fault in the people. So there is a public. But there's a section of the public which is us. Correct. And we are causing that problem.
Get access to Hotstar and all these other devices where you can watch football matches. They should stop the access. I mean,
correct. So I'm hoping they stop the access to this podcast also. They will just take everything away. We'll just go back to 1984 and watch Macintosh ads all over. So on that note, I will take a quick break. And on the other side, we'll hear more about Nayak and why Karthik disagrees.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another awesome, amazing, superb week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. What a week we had this week. We had so much crossover, so many great guests. I don't even know where to start. Okay, yeah, I do know where to start. Let's start with Uncle Please Sit. Uncle Please Sit, Joel and Tushar had Hamsini Hariharan. Hamsini hosts a show called States of Anarchy with their network. She is a China expert, and they discussed the India-China relationship. Really fascinating conversation. Cyrus had 2 conversations this week instead of our normal Thursday Cock and Bull. Great conversations, both of them. We'll be back with our regular Cock and Bull next week. But this week, you could definitely check out the conversation he had with Varun Grover. Really fascinating stuff. And Nikhil Taneja, who was the founder of Yuva and the creative director for the India Film Project Festival, which is going on this weekend. He was on the show as well. Cyrus was also on Advertising is Dead this weekend with Varun Dugirala. Cyrus and Varun discussed Cyrus's intent on randomness. Ranveer Brar guested on Gauri Devi Dayal show. This rounds on me. Another amazing conversation over there. Priyanka Khimani, one of the best IP lawyers in this country, was on Storytellers and Storysellers for a fascinating conversation. Definitely do check that out. And finally, I wanted to congratulate Zarina Poonawala for her 100th episode. She had Ashish Vidyarthi as a guest on that. If you have not been listening to the Empowering series, please do. It's one of the great shows out there. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Awesome. Welcome back. Karthik, do you want to quickly disagree before we start, or we should just wait for a little bit?
I wasn't disagreeing. I was giving you a solution. I was a very solution-oriented person.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll give you that much. At least you were thinking of the problem, and then a lot of people, and I've heard this being bandied about, and I think Sapre also said this. People in the left, and I mean left wing, are great at identifying problems. They're horrible at giving solutions. Sapre, do you still stand by that?
Of course, I will always stand by this.
Okay, cool. So this is a really widely listened to podcast, right? So everyone now knows which wing you belong to. Anyway, so talking about the right wing, Marcus Rashford.
B-wing.
Sorry, B-wing.
1304 B-wing.
Okay, got it. Don't give away personal information.
Yeah, now this is risky business, Sapre.
They'll line up outside. Everyone knows you already live in Vadala. They're not paying for this podcast. 15 pounds. So people want it back.
I'll send them a list of stuff that I need to buy for my house so they can get it with them.
And anyone who wants to find Sapre, don't try and find out Aadhaar card number 1 where he stays. That's not true.
It has a lot of zeros after it, like his bank account. Rich guy. Okay, so talking about right wings and rich people. This episode is called Nayak, primarily because we've seen Marcus Rashford do a lot of work. And that started from him taking a stand. Mesut Ozil, which Karthik gave away in a very anticlimactic manner because everyone really wanted to know who that is, has also taken a stand, and both have gone through very different circumstances. But let me start at the very bottom, and I will ask you questions that I've read on Twitter, seen a lot of chatter on this. These are not my questions. So even if you can't this podcast, please don't attribute these questions to me. But let me start with the baseline question. Tu footballer hai, football khel, politics mein mat ghus. What do you guys think about that?
So you're saying stick to sports, right? Pretty much. Like if it's any...
I've heard a lot of people say that. And not
This is a widely held opinion. And I think it comes from, especially with football, Siva, and this is personally, I think it comes from the opinion that a very, badly held opinion that footballers are inherently dumb because they're taken... Probably many sportsmen think that way. They're taken maybe out of school at an early age just to play football. Right. So you don't have the worldview that you apparently don't have the worldview that anyone else who's been to school, college in its traditional forms have, because you're playing football from the age of what Rooney started at 18. Nobody considers him an intellectual. He's probably be a very smart guy. Lukaku speaks 6 languages. But the only thing we hear about Lukaku is the fact that he doesn't have a first touch and he's a lumbering centre forward who scores probably a lot of goals, but nobody will ever picture him or want him to give his opinion on the world. So it's great that someone like a Rashford is doing this. It's great that he is fighting it head on. So I don't know Marcus Rashford's background, but he's found a problem that there is, that there clearly is. I mean, and I don't think anyone can argue that feeding kids can be problematic in any way. So he's found that problem, and he's, like you mentioned at the start, he's actually finding solutions to it. So he tried it with the politicians in the UK. It didn't work. The bill didn't pass, or whatever happens. I mean, I don't think any of us are experts in UK politics, but whatever happened. Then he went locally and he found places that serve food who are willing to serve these kids in school, and it seems to have worked out successfully. So fair play to him. And therefore, I think that entire notion that footballers should just stick to football is thrown out of the picture. I mean, they will stick to football for 90 minutes and that's about it. There are many, many more things in this world more important than football. I mean, for those few hours that you're watching your favorite team play, it may be the be-all and end-all, but it isn't. Right? You step away from it, it isn't. So fair play to Marcus Rashford. If you tackle him, you hate kids.
I think the simplistic way which you closed it might go against all the pearls of wisdom you shared before that. Before I give it off to Sapre, I think what Karthik, absolutely beautifully identified is that the problem he's tackling is so simple, right? You really can't be on the other side of it. Like there is no opposition to kids are going hungry, we need to feed them. No one in their right mind is going to be against that motion, right? Sapre, what do you think of anyone who's, taking a stand for whatever, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, so I think firstly, let me tell Karthik that don't you put it out there that if you tackle Rashford, you're tackling kids because then United will not get any penalties. So let's get that out of the way. So please go ahead and tackle him in the penalty box. And if you really feel for the kids, give away that penalty. That's the best way to support what Marcus Rashford
Politician has entered the chat.
Yeah.
No, I think to your point, I think a lot of information is available for people to consume. These footballers or other artists or successful people in any field do a lot of PR about themselves. So I think the expectation now is that we know this is your profession, but we want to know more about you and your values and what you believe in and what you don't. So there's that pressure also when you're a public figure to come up and stand up for something, whatever that you believe in, whether it's small, whether it's large. To me, it doesn't really matter whether what Marcus Rashford is doing right now is more for the kids in UK. I wouldn't have felt any different had he been doing this for a global campaign, say Black Lives Matter or anything else, like what he believes in. Whichever industry vertical you come from, I believe if you want to make that choice, you should. But you should also understand that when you take an action, there is a consequence and you have to be ready to deal with it, whichever way it could be.
Okay.
I
completely understand that.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because if it was maybe in any other person's shoes, maybe Rashford himself may not have expected the blowback that came his way. At the end of the day, he's just trying to feed people, right? But it became a extremely political issue. Yeah, but he turns out that he's strong enough to take it and continue doing what he thought he thinks is right and which seems right to the rest of the world. So I think that in that way, I think Sapre is right. You could have a case where because of the blowback, you just step back. Maybe your club tells you to step back. Your employers, it happens here as well, where we have seen journalism organizations in this country, in India itself, are telling now their employees to not post things on social media which are personal or political in nature, so that they don't cause any sort of divisiveness. Now, that is an employer interfering in your what's the line we use on Twitter?
The right.
Basically, what's the line we use on Twitter, Shivram? I keep forgetting.
RTs are not endorsements.
Yes, retweets are not endorsements. So they're basically controlling that aspect as well. You remove that line from Twitter if you're following what your employer is saying. But yeah, he was able to handle the blowback, and this is going to happen. What did we talk about that day? And I want to change sport. Sorry, Shivram, if I'm going away a little bit. But
is this the IPL? Because that is what I was going to come to next.
Okay. Then, about Hardik Pandya, right? He's the first Indian cricketer to publicly take a stand for Black Lives Matters movement. And most of the responses, now I work in a cricket company, so I've seen it when we put out posts on Hardik Pandya. Most of the responses are in support of him on social media, but in a way also to state that India does not have a problem with racism, or the BLM movement is not applicable in India. It is, I think, there are a few pieces written, and some of them are extremely good about colorism, which more affects our society than racism in its sense of what you hear of from the West. The proper reason that's probably in the US or in the rest of the Western, the white world, basically, where... So when he took the stand, there is also the opinion that maybe he should have spoken about minorities here or people who are disadvantaged here. But I am just so pleased with the fact that an Indian cricketer took a knee. It may be for whatever reason. You can say it's probably for PR. He was just waiting for that first 50 of the season so that he could go on his knee. But I am so glad that he did it. And because this is someone who has been through a lot, trying to appropriate Caribbean culture on Coffee with Karan, which got him into his problem in the first place. And maybe the case is that we ended up taking more offense than people in the Caribbean.
Right.
Than a Kyron Pollard, for example, who seems to be his best friend in Mumbai Indians.
Yeah. Fair enough. Before I let Sapre go, I heard this fantastic analogy. Maybe I've read it on Twitter, which is obviously my best source of information. And this is when Black Lives Matter as a movement started, right? And you also saw a faction talk about, why just Black lives, all lives matter, right? So hashtag all lives matter sprung up pretty vociferously in opposition for whatever. I mean, that is the idea of it. This analogy basically says, let's say your house is on fire. You call the firefighters, and you basically say, my house is on fire, can you help me save it? And they then say in response, what about the other houses? Why should we save only your house? Why shouldn't we save all the other houses in a neighborhood? But the idea here is that their houses are not on fire, right? Your house is on fire, which is why all lives don't matter until Black Lives Matter, right? So which is a fantastic analogy. It helped me understand how to arrive at that same opinion, and which is, I think, also in partly is an answer to what you just spoke about, right? It's not just, why aren't we talking about this before we talk about that? Like, that is also known as whataboutery, right? This should be, I mean, there is no priority of issues that are, one is more important than the other. At least I don't know of such a priority list. But that really helped me understand how to approach such a situation. Sapre, what are your thoughts?
No, I second what you said. In fact, all lives matter is a very large term. When you, and all of us are working professionals, and most of the people who listen to this podcast are working professionals as well. When you're trying to tackle a problem, you break it down, right? And you sort it bit by bit. All lives matter includes Black lives as well. That's the immediate problem that needs to be addressed, is what the people who started the movement identified and worked towards. So I don't believe this all. Of course, all lives matter. That's no one's disagreeing with it. But I think to solve that, you have to start with one part of the problem, which at that point it was believed to be Black lives, with what was going on in the West and in the white world, largely also in Europe. So I don't think this all lives matter versus Black lives matter really makes too much of a difference. It's just, I spoke about consequence in the previous part, and I'll stick to that. Whoever is going to strive towards bringing about a social change, unless you're doing it for a PR stunt. But if you're genuinely wanting to do this, you can't expect it to be a walk in the park. I'm sure you have to equip yourself to kind of handle a situation when it arises. I think people who have stood up for this moment in the US, outside the US, especially for Black Lives Matter, have taken up that responsibility. They've found support in their organizations, whether football clubs or outside. And I think this is going to drive social change, which is the hope. What are we if not hopefuls?
Can I play devil's advocate? Is because you brought up the football clubs concept, and this is for probably both of y'all or anyone who's listening as well, just to think about. The moment it became, the Black Lives Matter logo came on the jerseys after the restart happened, the moment it was an instruction from the clubs to their players that you have to kneel before kickoff for a minute or so. Isn't it become then corporatized? Doesn't then the messaging go and it just becomes public relations, as we have said many, 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 many times? And I'm sure a lot of the players believe in it. But the fact that now you're selling merchandise out of it just rubs me slightly the wrong way. When it comes to football, and simply because we are mainly a football podcast. So when I was looking at those in the Premier League, what they did with those 20 clubs, I felt a bit,
Yeah, see, my point is you expect society to be nice without and getting the commerce out of it. It's not going to happen. To do good things, you need money. Come on. I mean, what world are we living in? So it's fine if it's corporatized. It's okay if they're making a show out of it. They're not moving away from what they want to achieve, right? I mean, if people are making money and investing it back into the movement, why not?
I second that in terms of looking at it from that perspective, because what's important here, and it's important to, keep the eye on the ball, is the fact that we need to get more eyes on the fact that Black Lives Matter. All right. Now, that is number one priority. Now, how you do that, even though if it's institutionalized, like how Karthik was saying, like it has become mandatory for everyone to kneel and, there's a minute before the game starts and all of that. I don't think that takes away. I don't think it dilutes the movement, I think, which is what Karthik was referring to. And while we are talking about consequences and dilution of, the actual causes that these players want to stand for or want to take a stand for, sticking with Hardik Pandya for a second. And I've asked this question in private. Do you think it was relatively easier for Hardik Pandya to take a stand for Black Lives Matter because it's in a foreign land and possibly doesn't affect us as much for whatever reason? Is it easier to take a stand which is more external than something that would affect our country directly?
I'll go first here. Again, if you're just doing a comparison of taking a stand in either way, whether home-based issues or foreign-based issues, yes, it is easier. But as a cricketer, as a Team India cricketer, I do not think it was easy for him at all. What he did was unprecedented. No other Indian cricketer has come out and said anything, or any famous Indian sports person. There are a few exceptions along the way, but nobody else has. So I think if you just look at it from his point of view, solely as a fact that he's taking a stand for something, it was unprecedented. If you compare it to, okay, maybe he should have looked at things at home first before looking at something that probably is a few degrees of separation away from us. Yeah, maybe it's easier, but fair play to him.
Agreed. I actually love the fact that you brought it up and you separated the two ideas of making it easy versus actually taking a stand. It might look like it is, but it's absolutely not. And the fact that we spoke about this earlier, it doesn't take away from the fact that he did take a stand. And it's unprecedented for whatever it's worth. I think that makes him the Colin Kaepernick of the IPL. Sapre, what are your thoughts on that?
I hope it doesn't. I hope, because this guy's cricketing skills are beyond something else. We have to see him. I hope there are no consequences for Hardik Pandya. From what we've read, his organization, even the BCCI, everyone has been pretty supportive of him, even if not publicly. But there has been no blowback towards Hardik. Yeah, which is good for Hardik for doing like this. So I hope what happened with Colin does not even come close to what will happen with Hardik, because we need him. Yeah, I mean, personally, from a cricketing point of view, India needs him going into the T20 World Cups that are going to come in the next couple of years.
Enough about cricket, Karthik. Sapre, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think I'm anybody to question whether Hardik Pandya really believes or he doesn't. I think that's his. But was it convenient? For him, definitely it was. That is something. It's too complicated, and as a person, as a sportsman, as an active player who plays for the country. And who knows, maybe tomorrow we'll take up another, cause. And I'm sure people will again question, but why this cause? Why not any other cause? Because there's so many causes within this country also that you need to pick up. So look at the larger picture. There's a cause that is picked up. Instead of you cribbing about it, why don't you pick up a cause, whichever that you like and you believe in, and work towards social? I love what Afroz Shah does in Bombay and what he's done with the beach cleanup, right? And he's a household name, at least in Bombay. I don't think he believed in something which was what people thought would have been small, but it's not. It's a mammoth task that he's undertaken. He's doing it for over 4 years now. And he's made it into a social movement. So, like I said, I'm a very hopeful person, and I sincerely believe that, and I'm glad that there are no ramifications either from the Mumbai Indians team or the BCCI for Hardik Pandya. And I hope it doesn't come up in the future. All I hope is more and more cricketers and other people who idolize these people also learn something from this and take up something for a cause that you believe in if you don't believe in Hardik Pandya's cause. Simple as that.
Fantastic. I love that answer. I think that summarizes a lot of our questions and really well put, Sapre and Nayak. I think this is one of our podcasts which is slightly different. We're not focusing on fantasy football today, but I think this deserves enough and more importance by itself. On
a side note, that's because Shivram did so badly that he doesn't even want to mention it.
I did. I made 73 points. We'll come back to that.
That's like 20 more than I did.
I did want to bring it up for that very reason. Anyway, let's talk about consequences and one person who has faced the consequences. And I don't know if that is fact, if it's not fact.
Yeah. You said has, but now you're saying, so it's a little...
I mean, for whatever it's worth, there are consequences to whatever degree. We can't attribute it to one particular instance is the problem. I highly recommend this New Yorker article, which I don't think was a revelation. I think it's more of like a timeline. I don't think they've really dug deep into what actually happened. It's more like it's not really deep.
It's like a by the way. This happened.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a timeline at best.
You're talking about the New York Times one, right?
Correct. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, the New York Times one. So Mesut Ozil hasn't played after the restart for a single minute. He's now been left out of the Champions Not the Champions League, sorry, Europa.
Whoa. Wait. When did Arsenal qualify for the Champions League, Shivram?
Good question. See, this is why people shouldn't be given access.
That's a separate podcast series altogether.
So he's been left out of the Europa League squad. Like, there is a 25-member squad, and he's been left out of that extended squad, right? He's also now been left out of the EPL squad. So until January, he's going to sit at home and does what he does best on Twitter, is report the games. He's telling everyone to have a good game. He has done predictions, so he's possibly coming after us, and next is a podcast. What's actually happening? And this goes back to him taking a stand. Now, for whatever that is worth, I don't know if that's a stand, it's not a stand. Everyone knows about the travesty or the conspiracy, which is the Uyghur Muslim in China, right? They're being displaced. And the fact that he took a stand. He also met Erdogan, who's the president of Turkey, and he called to action senior leaders. He met them, and I think Germany also ostracized him from the team. So he's been...
just a little thing about the Germany team. The Germany team was, I think, some of the racist abuse that he got. And he didn't feel supported by the DFP, which is the local body, and by Joachim Löw after the 2018 World Cup. So he quit based on that.
Got it. Okay. So this is obviously not fact.
I think it needs to be mentioned. He is Muslim. So he faced abuse based on those lines.
Got it.
So it's kind of, I mean, he spoke in support of the Uyghur Muslims in China. And then this came a little before that. So yeah, it's all been building up over the past 2 years to where we're seeing Mesut Ozil today. Or we're not seeing him today.
Not seeing him, just on Twitter. So going back to consequences, he's also made himself widely available in whichever way he could, saying, I'm practicing. You remember Owen Hargreaves back in 2010 putting out exercise videos because he wanted a contract with Man City, and then he got a paper play contract where he was saying, I'm fit again. He's basically doing the same thing where he's tweeting and he's saying, I'm fit and this and that. But where has that gotten him? And let's start with Sapre this time. What do you think is happening? Do you think we'll ever see Mesut Ozil play? And do you think we'll see him play for Arsenal, if anyway?
I think let me go back to the New York Times article that you mentioned. I think there's one sentence from there which actually summarizes the situation with Ozil and Arsenal. And it says, Ozil's mistake then appears to be less that he had made a political statement and more that he had picked the wrong issue. Right, given China's commercial value to the Premier League and to Arsenal as a club with the big broadcasting rights and a fan base and Mesut Ozil's personal fan base. In fact, when they send out Christmas or Chinese New Year gifts, they removed Ozil's picture from them.
Yeah.
So it's about that. But a lot of things have built up. I think it was first with the stand that he took. Then it was about the pay cuts, which I think Ozil was just around with Arsenal saying, if you don't support me, I'm not going to support any of your shithousery. Because he came out and said that I had some questions and I didn't get sufficient adequate answers for that, which is, where is the money going to go? Are you going to spend it to retaining the non-playing staff? Is the board and chairman are they going to also take salary cuts, which the Arsenal club officially says that they've addressed these questions. But Ozil is just like playing around with them, which is getting back at them. He's happy. He's also punishing them by not leaving and making them pay him a big salary. So he had a consequence. He's fighting that battle in every way that he can. And as long as Cola is next to him or around him, I don't think Ozil will. But
I saw this one tweet which said Arsenal didn't even support him during the knife incident. And I was like, what knife incident? Then I remembered, shit, he got mugged. I completely forgot about that.
So I don't see him playing for Arsenal again. While Arteta, when he came in, he said, I want to work with him. And I'm sure he's still a top player with enough game time. He can come close to what we saw of Ozil at Arsenal. But I don't see with the current conditions him playing at Arsenal, given the commitments that the club has with China, the country, the clubs there and everything else. But definitely he will play football. If Turkey, Fenerbahce, I think, or
no. So basically, I'll just interrupt you there. It's because it's Erdogan who he is close with, he's been picturized at least being close with, has a stake in Istanbul Başakşehir, who are in your group in the Champions League, Sapre, with Manchester United. So it's the obvious link there that Ozil will next go to Başakşehir in Turkey. It's surprising that it didn't happen during this time.
Yeah, I think he's making enough money here. Why should you leave? Mil raha hai to kyun chhode?
Yeah, something has switched, because you mentioned he hasn't played since the lockdown. It's important to note that in Arteta's, just before the lockdown, he started under Arteta in the previous 10 games. He started each and every match. He was a bit part player. So there is something that has gone wrong. And I have a feeling it has something to do with his stand on the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in China, but I don't think that's the whole story. I think he has made Arsenal look bad, which is more troubling for the club, especially in terms of when he spoke about the fact that the club didn't support him when he made the statements. He spoke about the dinosaur who was sacked.
The
Gunnosaurus, yeah. And he's paying the salary. So he's actively making the club look bad. Now, I'm not saying that he is, but this is exactly how the club would feel that Arsenal not coming out looking very good. When he remember when they tried to spin it like Ozil was the only player not taking a pay cut during the lockdown? Yeah. But then it turned out that Ozil was not taking a pay cut just to know where is the cut money going. And it ended up being Arsenal fired about 50, 60 people, right? So in the fact that the rest of the players took a pay cut, the money maybe didn't go back to the team. So maybe Ozil was right there as well. So he's made the club look pretty bad in this period of time. And therefore, purely as an employer, I don't see them giving Arteta even the limited scope to play his ex-teammate in his side currently.
Yeah. No, what I completely agree with is the fact that what I think is good summary is that Arteta is not a problem, or Arteta is not dropping Ozil from what both of you said in the New York Times article as well, that it has a lot to do with the board itself. And one thing I think is a fact that Ozil's not making them look bad. Ozil's is just calling it as it is. They are just making the wrong decisions. Right? Why would you? And the fact that they try to also spin it that he's not taking a pay cut, but then the revelation is that they wouldn't answer simple questions of paisa jayega kidhar, and then they lay off people. Then, the Gunnosaurus thing is, it's very easy for any one of them to do with the massive salaries that they draw. The idea was also because the Gunnosaurus is also like a game day thing where people enter the stadium and Gunnosaur is expected to be there as a mascot, but people are not in the stadium, which is why do we need him, right? So that's a fairly direct, fair business line of thinking. But then you forget that guy's a mascot, right? Like, he is a representation of the club, right? And Ozil just swoops right in. His agent is a better PR manager than a footballing PR agent. So that is a fact. But the fact that...
that's absolutely a fact. He's not able to find him another club. So...
Ozil will find another club. The other thing is, I read just today, he's also joined the Rashford bandwagon where he's actually feeding, I think, 1,500 kids in London. So I think we should stop questioning the players and start questioning the board as a fan base or as other... Like, now, do you think there is some need of unity in the players where... अच्छा आज मेरे को नहीं हो रहा तो मैं कुछ नहीं बोलूँगा. But tomorrow
can it be that way? Shivram, suppose you and I are playing in the same team, yeah? You're our goal scoring, you're our best striker, and suddenly you decide to just...
This is a real story.
Yeah, fine, fair enough. But suddenly you decide to just sit up somewhere and not play football for the team because you have other issues to fight. I'm like, why the hell is this guy not playing? He can go deal with his issues in his own time. Come out here and help the team win. As a teammate, maybe I don't want to support you.
Yeah. I don't think we should. I don't think we should question whether the other players should or should not. So I think that's a personal choice. Or maybe you can question and just leave it at that. You can't keep probing. Why?
तो question नहीं पूछ सकते. एक question पूछ के छोड़ दो.
हाँ, मतलब इलाका जा सकता है because उसको तो chance मिलने से रहा.
कितना chance मिला यार? जाने दो. कड़े बोलते मत निकाल.
Oba's blanked for 4 game weeks.
Five. You read a previous article.
First time it happened in his Arsenal career, or maybe his entire career.
Must have been the bumper contract that he signed.
But I know you tell me.
And you remember there was someone else who signed a bumper contract 2 years ago, and now he's not even in the squad. So I wonder what is going to happen with Oba.
Not the podcast, not Football Shootball. Who is this?
Well done. Okay.
Karthik, here's a question for you because Shiva's going to be a little biased, so I will ask you this question.
How dare you?
Do you think Ozil's a nice person? He's trying to help Arsenal by this inception, by seeding thoughts in your subconscious mind. Arsenal having a dinosaur as a mascot for a club just tells the fan base that your club is extinct, right? Do you think there's some connection there?
If y'all are still listening in, and we're very glad y'all are. Remember, we promised you pot shots ahead of Manchester United versus Arsenal this weekend. It begins now.
I mean, it's the devil himself. His team must be fictional.
Yeah, no, but it's tough. Yeah. Again, no, I think Ozil's doing this so that he leaves. When he does leave, he's not looked at as this monster. When he's going, and Arsenal are looked at as the monster, and I think it's fair play to him. I don't think he's completely innocent in the entire thing as well. Starting with the fact that he didn't really play that well. What his salary or his. But this is what it is, though. It boils down to the football. When we talk about Rashford, the moment he misses this weekend, the moment he misses a sitter, you think his Twitter mentions are going to be about great job, Marcus, great job feeding everyone? No, his Twitter mentions are going to be people cursing him.
But that's just United fans. What are you going to do?
Karthik is too idealist. If you want everybody to justify their salary, 90% of this world will be unemployed.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That very good that he's earning this much money, man.
Yeah. Chalo, before it devolves any further, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with more pot shots and fantasy.
पेश खिदमत है आपकी शान में हमारे अंजुमन से. Hi, I am Sadaf.
And I'm Arshit. खाने का इतिहास, economics, policy, psychology, सब है मेन्यू पे.
Only on the Naan Curry podcast every Wednesday, सिर्फ IVM podcast ऐप या वेबसाइट पर या फिर जहां से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो.
Awesome. Welcome back, guys. This is my favorite part of the podcast. Actually, what my favorite part, at least today, was the discussion we just had. I think very enlightening for me because I absolutely believe that I don't know everything. It's okay to question. It's important that you question. It's important that you know the answer, or at least have a semblance of the answer. So that was an effort for that. If you think you liked it, let us know. But we're coming back, and we'll start with fantasy. How do you guys do over the weekend? They're very, very boring games. So, I mean, at least fantasy would be...
Yeah, so I think we can rush through this a bit because the games were dull. So, I personally, in FPL on the fantasy board, you get average score. I always see myself usually there or below there. This week, I'm above there, so I'm happy. Yeah, life is good for this week.
Life validation. Above average person is validation.
Sapre?
Shitty game week. I made one change, which I got rid of Mahrez and I got Foden in, so I got points there. So that was a smart thing, but the other players didn't. But I've got a green tick in the Football Shootball group, and in the other groups,
someone must have left 52 points.
Yeah, that's what. It's okay. That doesn't matter. The rank matters, right?
Fair enough.
I got 52 points.
Very nice.
Yeah, I was glad that at least that Son and Kane came together and did something.
But I think everyone has them now, so what's the point?
Yeah, but okay. I just want to switch from fantasy here just a minute because you brought up Son and Kane. What a partnership this is turning out to be. Insane. This is Perez, Henry, Drogba, Lampard level.
Relax.
Ranga सबका pocket money ले रहे हैं लोग.
Braga और Teja they are at best. Mogambo is Mourinho.
Okay, but just one thing, because we all love Heung-min Son. The fact that he's top scorer, and we all knew that he was a sensational player, but now he's taken it that one level above. Like, you never consider Son as the world's best, like in that top 10, top 15. Yeah. I think he's pushing that door now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what exactly Mane did the last season, where he just jumped in the top 5 players currently in Europe, at least. I think if Son continues with this form, he will definitely be considered one of them.
Awesome. So top 5 in Europe, also top 5 in Football Shootball. Number 1 is Ankit Kinney with Drizzy. 53 points with a total of 410. So not that far away. This is actually very, very doable. Sapre, Karthik, you're listening. Pass the Beek. Sapre, your favorite team name. Huzefa is on 58 points, 409. Number 3 is Ameya Giri, 68 points, again 409. So the difference of 1 point in the top 3 is insane.
Sorry. Can I make a point? Can Hufeza...
That's the point of
Can Huzefa... or does Huzefa take bench... What is it called? Bench
boost.
Bench boost?
Because he's on the... Because Van de Beek?
Yes.
Is that the joke? Okay, cool.
Oh, nice. Oh, shit, I didn't get it. Yeah, good one.
Salamane bhai. Am I saying that wrong? Is there a wordplay here I'm not getting? Ameya Giri's team. Anyway, Kurugomi Shanks. We still don't know what is Kurugomi.
It's like Salman bhai. It's Salman bhai.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Sorry. Aditya Shankar is number 4 at 57.406. And a name we are all familiar with, Vishwas Atriya. Citizen Atri is on 51.404. Number 7, Shlok Chaturvedi is the Royal Arsenal. Up the Shlok, well done, very well done.
With that team name, exceptionally well.
Yeah. Pass the Beek is still number 2, relax. So next week, before we move on to what's happening today, tomorrow, day after, because there's a lot of Champions League happening. On the weekend, this is in the future. Arsenal will beat United on Saturday night. Tammy is free on Sunday. Fulham is playing West Brom. I'll just say that because Karthik is listening. The other fun game will be City will play Sheffield. So get in your City players. Aguero's out. Sterling is a must-have, I think, for that game. Other than that, Chelsea is playing Burnley. I will tip Werner again to get a brace, at least against Burnley. Burnley are okay. Not that great, and I think Chelsea are now switching it on. They were unlucky over the weekend with United, but now they can and will get a lot of fantasy points. Stick with Werner, cheap, 9.3 million. The last shout out I have over the weekend is Liverpool play West Ham away. Liverpool play at home, West Ham's away. So that might also be a big day for Mane or Salah or Salman Bhai. I don't know.
Also Antonio. Antonio scores a lot of away goals for West Ham. So
I don't know what's happening. Number 1 is DCL. Number 2 is Bamford. Number 3 is Kane or something. What is this world? I don't even know anymore. Before I move on, anyone's taking Bamford? I'm not.
No, neither am I. He didn't score for the last couple of game weeks, right? And he just scored 3 now. So
he did. I mean, couple maybe not, but he's got 3 goals in the season before this. About Bamford, this is the 6th hat trick this season. Quickly, can you all name the other 5? I was just not able to.
Son is one.
DCL as another. So that's 3 done. 3 more.
3 more.
Yeah. Salah has 1. That's 4.
Against Leeds.
Correct.
Somebody from Villa against Liverpool?
Yes.
Watkins.
Watkins.
So we're missing 1 more.
Yeah, we're missing 1. Even I don't know who that answer is. But Vardy has against City. Yes. Spot on, Shivram. Well done.
Nice. Well done. Okay, on that happy note that I got the answer of this impromptu pop quiz, let's move on to what's happening this week and what are you guys looking forward to in the Champions League, Karthik?
I mean, there's Barcelona, Juventus. We're hoping Ronaldo again tested positive a few days ago, so we really don't know whether it's going to be Messi versus Ronaldo. So we'll find out. It's fine. It's the Champions League. It will be fun to watch. Yeah. The only problem is we're in India, and I know most of our listeners are as well. Damn, guys, it's starting at 1:30 now at night. So,
painful it is. So painful, like the Spurs Burnley game. Sapre, you are anyway free.
You know what? Sorry, Sapre, before you start, you know what we should discuss next week? This daylight savings and the conspiracy behind it. I am going to watch documentaries this week and I'm going to come up with my theories.
We should. Nice. You can take that. Me and Siva will prepare sound bites of yes, clap, exactly. We'll just choose a few keywords.
Good point, guys.
Good point. I think it's time for a break. Stuff like that we'll just pre-record. No, I'm looking forward to the Barcelona Juventus match, irrespective of whether Ronaldo plays or not. But also Shakhtar Donetsk against Inter. That would be one exciting match. They've already won the first match, Shakhtar against
Inter. Happy because they've been right?
No, it's just it's nice to see that Inter team play. They've got a bunch of decent players, and Eriksen plays in the Champions League more than he plays in the Serie A matches for some reason. So good to see him on the ball as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
No, he's probably on the move. Maybe Arsenal can come in. They need a creative attack.
Exposed.
Correct. He's Conte doesn't like him at all. He doesn't know what to do with him.
I saw that All or Nothing. He was very happy to move to Inter. Full happy at the airport and all.
Yeah, it didn't really work out. I mean, this is Antonio Conte. He's a little...
Wait for one more year before the Instagram video comes out saying how I was frustrated after the first training session. And I told my manager if I can make a move again.
Oh my goodness. Okay, cool. Chalo, is that it? Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I think Arsenal United should be decent. I have no idea who is better because I don't think either of them are. I mean, there was 3 weeks ago we were discussing Arsenal. I think Siva, you mentioned it. Then don't get your hopes up too much. And the last few weeks have proved that we need to temper expectations. I would say 2 things. 2 stats, 2 really nice stats that I found. Actually, one is a stat, one is an opinion. For Arsenal, it's stop playing through Xhaka and start playing through Partey. Yeah. Like, stop trying to find Xhaka for the ball every time. Play through Partey, through your midfield. The other one with United is a brilliant stat, which is Donny van de Beek, and we've spoken about him a lot in this podcast, Sapre, has been on the field for 69 minutes for United in the Premier League. When he's been on the field, United have scored 5 of their 9 goals. Boom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I think Ole made a nice statement saying that some people are talking about he's not important for the club. Ole says, I came from the bench so many times. Do you think I was not important for the club? I think that just shuts
The answer is yes. Scholes was more important. But the fact that you brought up that they are playing through Partey, I think I saw a lot of chatter on that on Twitter as well, that they're not just trusting him. Arsenal are also so used to playing off the wings, and you've seen the Oba, Laka, Saka, that cut, right, which is the moving from one wing to the other and then overloading one wing, and then they put that swerve on the ball.
And then you give away all your tactics by putting up these videos on your social media channels. So every team knows now.
But they have access, Ray. They pay £15 and then they buy the games.
Also, we have Leeds in the Premier League, so snooping can easily be done.
Nice. Well done. I don't know if enough people know that reference. I highly recommend looking that up. That is is that proved or is that still an allegation?
No, it is absolutely proved. Bielsa admitted it, but because he's this chubby teddy bear type figure, nobody criticizes him for it.
Are you talking about him or his translator? Both are teddy bear type figures. Anyway, enough about bears and devils and Arsenal. We should call it a good day. I think this was really important for us to talk about. We did, which is the Arsenal United game. We also talk about stands, which are also important. If you have any thoughts, please, we'd love to hear your thoughts on Twitter. #FootballShootball with your tweet. You can tag any one of us. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media handles. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I'm Fickleberry Hun on Twitter and Instagram. That's Huckleberry Finn, but Fickle.
If you want to reach out to me, I am Sapre on Twitter and Sapre on Instagram.
You can reach out to me at iRant, which is IYERANT on Twitter and Instagram. This is Football Shootball. Recognize.
Whether you're an established sports person or a budding one, or simply a sports enthusiast, join us, Tanvi and Shlok.
We are 2 passionate pro badminton players talking policy, mindset and everything sport.
So tune in to The Millennial Athlete every Monday.
Only on the IVM Podcast Network.
Trust us, it's gonna be lit.
Are you looking for India's most awesome cricket podcast? Are you now tired of listening to the same old guys drone on about cricket everywhere? Edges and Sledges is a weekly cricket podcast hosted by 3 fans of the game, Varun, DJ, and myself, Ashwin. It was established in early 2018, has over 60 episodes now, and is of course now proud to be on the IVM Podcast Network. Each week, we get together from 3 different time zones, the USA, the UK, and Singapore, and we talk about things from the world of cricket, with a focus on Indian cricket. We often interview special guests from all around the world, including former cricketers and cricket media personalities. So check out Edges and Sledges, the cricket podcast, now on the IVM network.